Welcome to San Joaquin College of Law Today, a show dedicated to issues and events within the law school, which are of general interest as well. SJCL Today is produced by San Joaquin College of Law, a nonprofit law school in Clovis, founded in 1969 to provide quality legal education. Over 88% of its graduates have passed the California bar examination. More than a quarter of the practicing lawyers in the Fresno area are San Joaquin College of Law graduates. We begin our program with San Joaquin College of Law's annual Senior Law Day, featuring topics and services for senior citizens, including driver's rights and DMV license reviews. In addition, Central California Legal Services provided free assistance in the preparation of simple wills and advanced healthcare directives. But we begin with Deborah Boyette speaking on estate planning and traps that target seniors. Deborah's a graduate of San Joaquin College of Law and associate attorney at Walter & Wilhelm Law Group with over a decade of experience in elder law.
My name is Deborah. It's a real honor for me to come back and be here with you this morning and return to my law school. It was a wonderful experience for me. I've been able to turn the education that I received while at San Joaquin College of Law into a very rewarding career, and it's just an honor for me to be here with you this morning. I know we have at least one repeat in the room, and I shared with him, so if you've been here to one of our senior law days in the past, what we're going to do is we're going to talk initially this morning about financial elder abuse and go over some very important information about how you can be alert to protecting yourself and your assets against those who would try to wrongfully take them from you. Well, in the state of California, there's actually a legal definition for an elder, and that's anyone 65 years of age or older. There's also laws that are particularly designed to protect our seniors, and these are called our elder abuse laws. Elder abuse comes in all shapes and sizes. Elder abuse can be physical abuse, neglect, financial abuse, abandonment, isolation, or other physical harm, pain, or mental suffering. And what we're really going to drill down this morning on is financial abuse. Financial abuse is the illegal or unauthorized taking, secreting, appropriating, obtaining, or retaining the real or personal property of an elder or dependent adult for wrongful use. Let's break that down just real quickly. Real property, just so you know, is land and your home, anything attached to the land. That's what we call real property. Everything else is personal property. So we have land and things that are permanently attached as real property. Everything else is personal property. Your clothes, your jewelry, your car, your bank account, your retirement account is all personal property. What we're going to look at during our time is exactly how these scam artists gain the trust and confidence of seniors. They're very skilled at what they do. And as a rule, most seniors are very trusting. In fact, in a number of cases, too trusting for their own good. And we're going to give you some examples of how to be more alert and how to protect yourself. There's a special reason why seniors are targets for these scam artists. First of all, you have assets. You've worked a lifetime. You're continuing to maintain those assets in your retirement years. Some seniors are more dependent on others, and so they're more open to having strangers come into their life who appear to want to help. Sensory impairment makes seniors more likely to be victims to these scam artists. Emotional vulnerability, and as I've already mentioned, by and large, seniors just want to be more trusting. Part of that is simply your generation. You were trained to be courteous, to be respectful, to always be the nice person, and it's very difficult for you to be aggressive and to say no. We talked about the fact that there is vulnerability, and what we see are the cognitive, physical, sensory, and emotional vulnerability that seniors must be aware of. Cognitive impairment, of course, includes things like being restricted due to illness, Alzheimer's, dementia. You know, we're all forgetful. I've been forgetful for years. But as we get older, we know that our memory also begins to fade. And what happens is you may be made aware of a certain situation in the past, but you can't remember as well something that you were warned against, for example, like at a meeting today. And we're going to discuss how you can work with that type of impairment. We just have to be sensitive to the fact that we'll overcompensate. You'll question your own ability to remember, and that's also a trap. You want to rely on documents that you've had prepared in the past or a trusted family member or friend rather than just on your own memory. Seniors also have physical impairments that the scam artists are very familiar with. They'll wear you down. Physically, our bodies just aren't able to sit for long periods of time. Mentally, we're not able to focus for as long periods of time, and they know that. And they take advantage of that by trapping you in your home or your chair or in their office, wherever you may be. So we want to be sensitive to the fact that if you need to stand up, if you're starting to feel confused or tired, you say, I need to take a break, and you're very assertive about it. Sensory impairment. A lot of times these scam artists will talk in such a way that you may not clearly hear everything they say, but you may not be comfortable saying, you know, can you repeat that? I'm not sure I understood what you said. Or a lot of the documents that they put in front of you may be in such small or difficult to read type that you can't read it. And in that case, you want to ask for time on your own to read the document. But just be aware that they know what the issues are and they take advantage of it. One of the things that you'll see in our examples this morning is that they definitely play upon your emotional vulnerabilities. A lot of seniors, particularly in the case if you're a surviving spouse, are just lonely, or they're looking for companionship. You have time on your hands, and these scam artists know that, and they gain your confidence by pretending to be your friend. You may have heard of such a thing as a living trust will. Now, let me just pause here and say, as an estate planning attorney, one of the things that your attorneys will wanting to be prepared for you are your wills, your trust, your advanced health care directive, your durable power of attorney. These are legal documents that make up part of an estate plan. But what happened is there were some very savvy people who realized that they could sell these documents without the assistance of attorneys and by selling them in mass quantity. That's why we call these companies living trust mills. The mill aspect meaning they just churn them out, and they do not complete these documents with the care and the customization that you would get if you're working with an attorney. And let me say that the prosecution that took place by our state of California were by people who were against people who took on the role of acting like an attorney but were not attorneys, and that is clearly against the law. Who are these folks that work at living trust mills? And they're not just in California, by the way. If you have family members or friends in any of the other 49 states, this is an across-the-board problem. Well, they're actually salespeople, and they're posing as experts. They even have business cards or certificates that say things like Certified Trust Specialist. Well, I can tell you as an attorney, there is no such thing. You either are an attorney or you're not skilled at preparing a trust or another type of estate planning document. But notice that the title is salesperson. They're actually there to sell you a product other than an estate planning document. They're there to sell you something other than a will or a trust. things like a life insurance policy, an annuity, that kind of thing. They gain your trust by telling you that they're going to sell you a living trust, and we all recognize the value of having a living trust. They're wonderful documents. Everybody should have a will in place before we die. And that's how they gain your confidence. It seems legitimate. They come into your lives and they share with you how they're going to be able to prepare these legal documents, but it's just a guise to gain your confidence. The documents that they offer you, if you're savvy enough to recall, you'll recognize them. They're one-size-fits-all documents. They're fill-in-the-blank documents, but they put them in very beautiful 3-ring binders. I can't tell you the number of times I've had clients come in to see me and present me with a very attractive binder with gold leaf printing on the front that says estate planning. I open it up, and inside are documents that are intended to be completed wills, trusts, advanced health care directives, and as I thumb through them, there are blanks that have not been completed. More likely than not, you'll find these type of products being offered at seminars, if you will. Again, these are seminars not being given by attorneys, but by organizations whose primary purpose is to sell you something other than the estate planning documents. And in my experience, when these folks come to me thinking that they've had a professionally prepared estate plan and I point out to them the blanks, they realize that they really just received paper and a binder. The job was not complete, and in some cases there's no way to back up and correct the situation. What is their goal? It's to discover your assets. They're going to gain your confidence, find out what you own, and then determine a way that they can take that from you. There are a number of professionals that are involved in estate planning. You see them listing here. If you have a certified financial planner or financial advisor, that's an excellent resource to have. If you work with an accountant, again, a professional who provides you with services. But as we talk about the individuals who are looking to scam you, they are not these type of professionals. Again, they're people who are going to be selling you products. Well, what are the risks of relying on a non-expert when you have your estate planning done? Well, first of all, as I've already pointed out, if all you have are blank documents and the information is not properly completed, then your documents are going to be invalid. One of the most difficult situations that I face with clients is in the case of spouses. And one of the spouses, unfortunately, has, through accident, illness, or injury, suffered loss of mental capacity, and they're no longer able to sign legal documents. The well spouse, if you will, comes to me and says, what can we do? My husband or my wife is no longer able to manage their own affairs. And just so you know, once you've reached the point, then there's nothing we can do for you to correct those documents that weren't prepared to begin with. If they're invalid documents, then your estate planning is going to fail, isn't it? They're not going to be recognized by the courts and carry out your plans. Your life savings may be lost. Family disputes and unplanned distributions if your documents are not properly prepared. So there is risk involved in not working with professionals. Again, what is the motive of these scam artists? Well, it's to sell you products. They certainly don't have your best interest in mind. And they only make money when they sell the products, as you'll see from the examples that we'll go to. There's tremendous rewards offered. This is an actual document that was presented in the court action against a company that the state of California took on in 1995. This was a sales flyer offered to the people who worked for that company, encouraging them to go out and contact seniors. And what you see here is they're offered a stainless and gold Rolex or fur coat and 1-carat diamond ring, a Cadillac, a presidential Rolex. These were incentives to get these people fired up and motivated to get into your home, gain your confidence, and sell products. They use scare tactics. Oh, we scare them a little. I use big time fear in my presentation. You need to put fear into their mind that they need to do this today. These are statements from people who had gained the trust of a senior, were in their home, perhaps sitting around the kitchen table, and the senior is trapped, if you will, with someone with this type of an attitude. They want somebody to push them over the fence, and that's what you're there for. And I told clients, put on the coffee pot, because I'm not going to leave until you buy this. Can you imagine being caught in a situation like this by yourself in your home with someone that you really don't know very well? Your objection is, I'd like a little time to talk to my children. Here's what they're going to reply. You told me you make your own decisions. Were you telling me the truth? You're an independent adult. You can trust yourself. It costs too much. Well, let me offer you a discount and make it more attractive to you. I'd like some time to think about it. Oh, you can't afford to wait. I had a client who died while he was thinking about it. Anytime someone is approaching you about planning or a large investment or dealing with your assets, have a trusted family member or friend with you. And then make sure you ask them their opinion. They're going to hear things and see things that you may not have caught, or they may be able to question things that you weren't able to question on your own. Take somebody with you. It's a very important way to protect yourself from becoming caught in these scams. What do they gain by these sales tactics? Witnesses talk about the fact that the scam artists were able to take title on their home and other assets. Bank accounts were gone, and these seniors didn't even know it. They went to the bank, they asked, what happened to my money? And the bank account officer will show them documents that the senior had signed, allowing the scam artist to remove the funds from the bank account. Fake charity donations. They'll present what sounds like a wonderful charity, and particularly if anybody have a pet at home. A lot of seniors have pets, something that you really love and trust, and it's a really important part of your life, and they'll talk to you about perhaps a charity. Protect yourself. Make sure that you don't give confidential financial information to strangers, and particularly if you're meeting with them alone. Be strong. Take somebody with you or refuse to sign the document until you can return at a later time. Check out the company. With the web and the internet today, even if you're not computer savvy, chances are you have a family member or a friend who is. Ask them to check out a company. Contact the Better Business Bureau or some other organization and find out whether this is a legitimate company. Be suspicious. It's okay. Not everybody is going to have your best interest in mind. Remember, they're there to make a sale. We've already talked about have a trusted friend present. Read and get a copy of each document you sign. That's why you don't necessarily want to ever sign in your home. There's always an exception to the rule. But be in an office where if you sign something, you can immediately ask for a copy and you don't walk out until you take a copy with you. If there is a cancellation procedure, anytime you contact a company, two things. Even if it's on telephone, make sure you follow it up with a letter. Put it in writing. Dear so-and-so, this is a follow-up to our telephone conversation of today's date regarding this. You said you'd do this. I had requested that. You mail it off to them, and you mail it certified mail so that you have proof that you actually sent this to them. It's an excellent way to protect yourself. The other thing that they'll do is they'll ask you to give names of your neighbors or your friends. Never give referrals, because that's just a way that they spread like a virus. Particularly if they're in your home and they're asking about your neighbors. Don't give referrals and don't make snap decisions. So we talked about learning to be a little tougher, putting on some armor. It's okay to say no. Throw away mailed solicitations. Don't do business with strangers. If you get a phone solicitation, it's okay to hang up. For some seniors, that's very, very hard to accept because it seems rude. Well, I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, it's far more rude for them to steal your assets from you. So hang up. If you don't know what they're after and they're trying to sell you something, you don't need to give them your time. Hang up the phone, say, I never do business with companies who solicit me over the phone. What if they ring your doorbell, knock on your door? I never do business with strangers who arrive at my door. Shut the door, say goodbye. It's okay to be rude. You're protecting yourself. If you feel that you've been contacted by someone who had less than your best interest, check out this fraud reporting ability with the state of California, because the more we make ourselves aware of the wrongful acts that are taking place, the more likely seniors are to be protected. Why don't we go ahead and break, Beth? Yes. Okay.
Our second segment of Senior Law Day at San Joaquin College of Law features DMV Senior Ombudsman Richard Kaur speaking on driving techniques and driver's rights for seniors.
Thank you very much, Beth, and good morning, everybody. The Senior Driver Ombudsman Program was, as I mentioned earlier, created to assist seniors for driving as long as they can safely do so. The bottom line, of course, is safely. The program is to advocate dignity, respect, and due process for seniors. It had its beginnings in a tragic incident that occurred in 2003 that some of you may remember. And this occurred in Santa Monica when a gentleman mistook the accelerator pedal for the brake, and he, in the span of about 20 seconds, killed 10 people and injured 63 people. Right after that, my goodness gracious, you started hearing all kinds of things about seniors and driving. And there really were a lot of misperceptions. A lot of seniors thought, gee, they were just out to get me because of my age. Really not true. There actually is a specific provision in the vehicle code which requires the department not to consider age. The only time that age is ever a factor in the licensing process is at age 70, a person can no longer renew their license by mail. But that just means that they have to go in, take an eye test, written test. They are able to pass the vision test and the law test. If they're in good health, they get a 5-year license just like anybody else. In doing presentations like this one time in Porterville, met a gentleman who was 101 years old, had a 5-year license, and had just had his very first corrective lens restriction added. The fact of the matter is, as we age, for all of us, there will be changes in terms of our vision, in terms of our hearing, our physical abilities, our cognitive abilities. Average senior citizen 65 or older is on 5 or more prescription medications. Medications alone, even if everything else is going pretty good, the medications can make problems for driving, especially when you get multiple medications there. After that incident, and just as an aside, one of the things that was very sad and tragic about that, there was evidence about 2.5 years prior to that incident of driving disability with the driver. Had the family intervened, had the doctors intervened, perhaps that would never even have occurred. But the issues of driving can be very, very sensitive. And it can be very difficult for both the senior driver and for the family. Just in terms of even the discussion can be a little bit awkward sometimes, because driving does represent independence, mobility, freedom to be able to go where you want to when you need to. And the loss of driving privileges has actually been shown to cause increased depression and increased health problems for many people. I am actually aware of 2 people who even wound up killing themselves after they lost their driving privileges. The fact of the matter is, if we are just lucky enough to be average, we're going to have 7 to 10 years where we do not drive. We have all these changes that occur. But for people who are in possession of their cognitive faculties, they recognize that they don't see as well as they used to. They recognize that maybe they can't turn their head and look back over their shoulder like they used to. They recognize limitations. So they will start voluntarily self-restricting. They'll say, I don't want to go on the 99. I don't want to go on the freeway. Maybe I'm not going to drive on Shaw when it's really busy. Okay? Maybe even I'm only going to drive in the daytime. I'm only going to drive between 10 and 2. Even aware of people who have gone so far as to say, I am aware of the fact 67% of all accidents involving seniors occur on angled turns, especially left turns at an uncontrolled intersection. I'll make 3 right turns. It'll get me to the same place I'm going anyway. And there you are. If these types of strategies help you to maintain your independence and your mobility and to be safe, more power to you. Dementia is one of the most serious cognitive disorders that affects the older population. In fact, it has been postulated that perhaps 50%, as many as 50% have either Alzheimer's or some other serious form of dementia. Now, the good news is, it depends on whether you want to look at this as a half full or half empty. The good news is there's 50% that don't. There are many people that are fully capable, fully fine, function just well. I mentioned the gentleman that was 101 years old. Aging, people will say to me, Richard, what is age that is too old to drive? You have incidents like happened in Santa Monica. You have incidents like recently occurred in Los Angeles where a 100-year-old man ran over some school children. And right away you get people that want to have the legislature make DMV, make everybody past the age of 70 or 80 or 90 have to take a behind-the-wheel road test every year. Fortunately, so far, every time that proposition comes up, and I will give credit to AARP, they lobby and they say, no, that would be age discrimination and it would be inappropriate because the concern should be the functional disability. The real concern is to try and make an awareness where we have the full community, the friends, relatives, and neighbors. We have the medical community, medical practitioners. We have law enforcement. We have the DMV, all working together so that the individuals who do have the functional impairments can be looked at, and the other people don't have to be bothered. And quite frankly, with the state's state of finances, it really cannot afford to just give people driving tests for the sake of giving them driving tests. They really should be because there is a reason, because there is a need. And that is where we get into what I do and what rights are for an individual driver. Because this is still the United States of America, if the DMV is proposing to take your license away, you do have all kinds of rights to contest it, to appeal it, to have an administrative hearing, to have a review from the Department of Motor Vehicles, to take DMV to court and have the court look at it totally independently, totally fairly. You have a resource such as a senior ombudsman who can sometimes, not always, but sometimes, intervene and look to see for if there is some type of fair resolution where everybody has a win-win situation. Just because someone is referred to DMV does not mean they are going to lose their license. Sometimes I talk to people who have had to go in for the re-examination and have just received their notice, and of course they are frightened to death and they're automatically thinking the worst. They want to get me in here to just yank my license and take me off the road. And they're focused on that mean child of mine who must have turned me in, that mean neighbor, that mean officer who turned in that form, that mean doctor. So instead of focusing backwards in terms of how did I come to be in this predicament, it's much better to focus on what are the concerns, what are the issues, and how can I resolve this? Now, in the back, I have a booklet that is titled Driving Test Criteria. It tells you exactly what the examiner is going to ask and exactly how they score the test. Sometimes people think, oh gee, I go to the DMV and I show them that I can drive really safe because I'll just go really slow. They don't realize going really slow is a safety hazard, and the instructions they have for the examiner are to fail you just as quickly as he'd fail you for going too fast. This booklet tells you the criteria that they are using for scoring any driving test to anybody given anywhere in the state. Although it is written from the perspective of a senior, if you happen to have a grandchild or child or somebody that you know is going to take the test for the very first time, you may want to give them a copy of that, because that booklet applies to absolutely anybody and everybody. It's very fair and uniform across the board. That's the way the tests are administered. And that's what they ask before they start the test, and that's how they score the test. I have a sheet back there with tips on driving in the rain. Biggest tip of all would be don't, but if you have to, and sometimes we do have to, there are things that we can do to be a little bit safer. There is a self-assessment list that I have back there. You can ask yourself the questions. Now, the fact that the answer is that I get uncomfortable in traffic, I get uncomfortable in traffic. Okay? It doesn't mean necessarily that it's time to stop driving, but it does mean that maybe it's time to start reassessing when we drive, where we drive, how we drive. Are there things that we can do to make us drive a little bit safer and a little bit better? Just because of that referral process, or just because something happens where you get called into DMV, it doesn't mean you're going to lose your license. There are a whole range of things that can happen, ranging from DMV doing absolutely nothing other than saying thank you very much for your time. Cases, sometimes they will want monitoring. Even in cases of dementia, very, very early dementia, there are some people who are still safe to drive. The key is very early diagnosis and early treatment. Have a very good working relationship with your doctors. If you start a new medication, ask about potential side effects. Talk with your pharmacist. In fact, I encourage people, when you go to see the doctor, make a list. These are everything that I take. including vitamins, herbal supplements, anything. Just have a whole list so they can look right at it and know exactly what you're taking. Again, it goes back to some of the preventive things that we can do to help maintain a healthy lifestyle, which will keep us able to maintain our own independence, our mobility, our ability to drive. So DMV can monitor. They can say, okay, because you have dementia, but it's still safe for you to drive, which gets to be a little bit scary. It is a little bit tricky, but there are people who are in the very early stages still safe to drive, or maybe because of the vision conditions. And the biggest reason a person has a license less than 5 years is because of a vision condition, cataracts, glaucoma, or macular degeneration. They'll issue a license for maybe 6 months or a year or 2 years so that they can have a little closer monitoring. There is a probation, which sometimes is imposed. That requires the person to obey all the laws in this state and other states to avoid any responsible or reasonably avoidable traffic accident. And if there's a medical condition, that they follow the prescribed medical regimen and agree to report to their physician and to the DMV in the event of any adverse development. That's a way of letting people drive with a little tighter, more formalized monitoring. And there are suspensions. A suspension is just a temporary withdrawal of the driving privilege. If it's done for a physical condition, or a mental condition, it's done until it's deemed to be safe for the person to start driving again. A revocation is deemed as a more termination of the driving privilege. And basically even there, it is not the end of the world for a person, because as long as you're able to come back and show that the cause for that revocation no longer exists. There is a pamphlet back there on the re-examination process that DMV has if you ever get called in for one of those re-examinations. If it does get to the point where DMV is taking a probation action, a suspension action, or a revocation action, you are entitled to contest that action. You're entitled to say, wait a minute, DMV, this isn't right, and here is my evidence to show that I am a safe driver. This isn't a problem. This isn't a concern. You are entitled to be represented by an attorney. It has to be at your own expense, but you are entitled to be represented by an attorney or to have anybody else that you desire come in with you. Even when it comes to the point where it is time to retire from driving, it doesn't mean that it needs to be the end of the world. There are many things that an individual can still do to make their life very meaningful. There are many options that are available. The two biggest things that it has been said are most difficult to talk to a senior are, the second is actually it's time to stop driving. The first is it's time to move from your house. So if a person is planning and preparing for that time when they no longer drive, the issues of where I'm going to live and the issues of whether I should drive or how I'm going to get around hopefully are already taken care of. And hopefully from this session today, we have encouraged you to do a little bit of planning and preparing on your own, because it is very important, and also help to make people aware of the fact that you do have rights. And if you have problems with the DMV, there is an Ombudsman program. You can certainly call on us for assistance. Wish you all very well. I thank you very much for your time and attention, and I am available for any questions, any concerns, any individual cases. I will be available. Yes, ma'am.
The San Joaquin Agricultural Law Review, founded in 1990, is the oldest agricultural law review in the country. It is published by the students of San Joaquin College of Law, which is located in California's Central Valley, one of the richest agricultural regions in the world. The Law Review presents student and scholar works on legal issues affecting agriculture, but the topics are also of special interest to those in government, business, and law. The San Joaquin Agricultural Law Review provides an objective national forum for analyzing issues affecting agriculture. It's received judicial and critical recognition, and its articles have been cited by the California Supreme Court, the California Appellate Court, the United States District Court, and others. Articles have also been cited in the annotations of several California statutes.
Hi, my name is Mary Rodham. I'm the production editor for the San Joaquin Agricultural Law Review, and the piece that I wrote this year was entitled Unjust Compensation: How Severance Damages and Inverse Condemnation Will Affect California High-Speed Rail Takings. I chose to do my topic because the California High-Speed Rail was in the news a lot. The state hadn't decided if or when it was coming, and I thought that farmers were absolutely going to be affected, whether negatively or positively, by the rail. So I thought it was a very relevant issue to explore deeper. My topic, I ended up going into not necessarily takings of the property, but I explored the damages that farmers would suffer from noise and vibrations that the rail produced. I started off by looking into the scientific background for sound and vibrations created by the rail, and I took it both ways, if the farmers would be affected and if they weren't, and ultimately concluded that they were most likely going to be affected by the noise and vibrations, whether it be their animals were negatively affected, where panic flight ensued, or production of milk decreased, or chickens stopped laying eggs. I found that honeybees actually can become stunned by the movement of the train and the sound that it creates, so that would affect pollination crops. I also looked at the sound that sonic booms and jet planes make and compared that to high-speed rail trains from other countries, and they were very similar. So a lot of my research was looking at the planes and comparing it, and just coming up with the ultimate conclusion that farmers will most likely be affected by the noise and vibrations caused by the rail. Next, I looked into whether this damage that is caused to the crops and maybe the animals of these farmers will actually be compensated under the California Constitution. The California Constitution gives more protection to its citizens than the Fifth Amendment of the United States. The Fifth Amendment only compensates an individual for takings, whereas the California Constitution will also compensate for damages to property. So I went into further examination of severance damages and inverse condemnation. Severance damages occur when an actual physical or tangible taking has been done to the farmer and their land has been taken, and then they suffer damages to the remainder of their property by some act of the government. So in this case, if a farmer were to suffer a taking from the rail authority because they need their land to build the tracks or as a safe distance from the tracks, then if this farmer then suffers damages caused by noise or vibrations, they would be able to sue for severance damages to the remainder of their property and would want to be compensated for these damages. Inverse condemnation occurs when there has been actual no physical taking. So the individual who suffers damage to their property from this noise and vibrations would be the ones who are initiating the lawsuit to recover compensation for these damages. It's more difficult to receive inverse condemnation damages because it's a little bit harder to prove and it's more difficult. My piece ultimately concluded that individuals who suffer severance damages will be awarded the damages and just compensation for the damage to their property, whereas individuals who do not suffer an actual tangible taking or physical invasion of their property will be left with nothing, with no recourse, and will most likely just have to eat the damage themselves. I finally looked at whether this is fair or not to the farmers and decided that it's not, because essentially both sets of farmers, those who suffer taking and those who don't, are suffering the exact same damages and problems due to the noise and vibration of the rail, but one of them is being compensated and the other one is left with nothing. Therefore, I concluded it's not fair, and maybe the state of California needs to look at its case law and reevaluate it and change it. I'm Mary Rodham Deutsch from the San Joaquin Agricultural Law Review, and thank you for watching.
The success of San Joaquin College of Law is both measured and reflected by the success of its alumni. Among the more than 1,300 graduates are 24 judges and court commissioners, the Fresno, Tulare, and Madera County District Attorneys, the California Health and Human Services Secretary, and practitioners in every area of public and private service. We're pleased to offer this portion of San Joaquin College of Law today to a member of that alumni rank.
Hi, I'm Roger Wilson, and I am a 1997 graduate of San Joaquin College of Law. I have my own practice in Fresno, where I practice predominantly criminal defense. I also do some employment law and civil litigation. Prior to going into private practice, I was a prosecutor with the Fresno County District Attorney and also the Tulare County District Attorney for approximately 10 years. I've been asked to speak as an alumni of San Joaquin College of Law, and the topics that I'd like to talk about are twofold. One is what I would call the blessings of being a lawyer in the Central Valley. Second would be, because of my community involvement, I deal with high school students and Boy Scouts, and I get asked this all the time: why did you go to law school, and what's it like being a lawyer? And those two questions and the blessings of being a lawyer are really go hand in hand with each other. The blessings of being a lawyer, number one, is the community that we have of lawyers in the Central Valley, primarily because of San Joaquin College of Law. It's just a close-knit group of people. And everywhere you go, you're going to see a San Joaquin graduate. They're district attorneys, they're lawyers, prosecutors, defense lawyers, judges, and they're all throughout the community as well. As I said, I am involved with the Boy Scouts of America. I'm also a coach for a mock trial team at Exeter High School. I'm involved with the Scottish Society, and I also play on a men's senior baseball league, which is not so unique, just a bunch of old guys playing baseball, but there are also lawyers and judges involved in that as well. The community that we have as lawyers assists me daily in handling cases because of the community and also the camaraderie we have. I was told long ago in law school that if you're going to be successful in this career, you need to basically play nice with the opposition, because you're going to be working in the career for 20 to 25 years. Unfortunately, I don't always see that, but I do see it more often than not. Going back to the questions that I get asked by students, why I went to law school. I went to law school because, quite frankly, I thought I could make a decent living at it, being a lawyer. I'd seen all the TV shows that everybody else had seen. Perry Mason was my favorite. I know I'm dating myself, but I enjoyed Perry Mason. And I also liked what I saw on TV shows with respect to courtroom activity. However, during law school, when I had a class involving criminal trial practices and we had a courtroom, it scared me to death. I didn't want to be a courtroom lawyer after that. The class just scared me. Also, I had a class with Justice Ardice. He scared me to death. I didn't want to do anything with a courtroom. And then the San Joaquin grad, Phil Klein, who is the district attorney in Tulare County, asked me if I'd like to be a prosecutor. I told him, no, I don't want to be a prosecutor because I don't want to have to be in the courtroom. And he said, don't worry about it. I will show you how to be a prosecutor. And true to his word, he did. He sent me to the classes I needed, and he got me to love the courtroom. And I am forever thankful for his guidance in being a trial lawyer. When I moved up to Fresno County, I got to work for other San Joaquin alum. Beth Egan is the current district attorney. She has graduated from San Joaquin College of Law, and also Ed Hunt. Both those individuals guided me into becoming a trial lawyer, which is a unique animal in the world of lawyers, because not all lawyers are trial lawyers, but once you do it and you like it, you'll forever be a trial lawyer. The students I have in mock trial ask me what it's like to be a lawyer. I tell them that it's very gratifying. It's also very nerve-wracking. In my practice as a criminal defense lawyer, most of the people, if not all, when they come into my office, they're afraid. And they bring their fear, and they want me to alleviate their fear because they are hopefully don't have a lot of experience with the criminal justice system. And the criminal justice system can be very nerve-wracking. A phrase that I tell most of my students and also a lot of my colleagues is that the criminal justice system today is, to use a disparaging term, like an HMO. Once you get into the system, you basically lose control of the time, and it's going to drag on and on. And that's just an unfortunate consequence of the state budget and also the understaffing of the Fresno County, Tulare County courthouses. So what's it like being a lawyer? When the clients come to us, they're going to look for you for guidance. They're going to look to you for some way of alleviating their fear. And as lawyers, we're trained to do that. We can do that. And it's very gratifying to do that. It's also very stressful when you have to deal with unfortunate circumstances of whatever the case may bear out. But it's very gratifying. Another blessing of being a lawyer, and also goes into why I continue to be a lawyer, is because of the community involvement. Not just with the mock trial or the Boy Scouts of America, but there are so many things that you can do as a lawyer without just practicing law. Being a lawyer has not only opened doors for me to be engaged in the community, it has allowed my engagement to be more effective. I'm Roger Wilson, San Joaquin College of Law, class of 1997. Thank you for watching.
San Joaquin College of Law has 2 free legal clinics operated by students and overseen by faculty members. SJCL students are doing groundbreaking work in non-adversarial property division agreements and divorces in the mediation clinic. Clients meet with a student to work out a marital settlement agreement, which can then be filed with the court. The New American Legal Clinic assists legal immigrants in obtaining citizenship, working through the processes of naturalization. The Now Clinic also assists those seeking family-based immigrant visas or U visas, depending upon eligibility.
Hi, I'm Justin Atkinson, and this is Professor Jessica Smith Bobadilla, and we're here at the San Joaquin College of Law, and we're talking again today about the New American Legal Clinic and some of the services that we provide. Again, it's a clinic that we started recently. It's a free clinic that offers services to immigrants to help them legally come to the United States, legally stay in the United States. We also help some of the most underserved populations, some of the most vulnerable populations, and we deal with different laws, for example, U visas, VAWA cases, and Professor Bobadilla will speak to that in a minute, but that deal with women, for example, battered women, battered spouses, children that are affected by violence in the home, violence out of the home, and what we can do as a society to help stop this, because a lot of times that you have a person that maybe doesn't have legal status, and that fact is used against them to keep them in the shadows, and this person might be suffering substantial abuse from somebody, generally a spouse, that uses that and says, hey, if you come forward, I'm going to call immigration on you and you'll be deported and you'll be separated from your family. there are certain laws that are targeted specifically to help these populations, because I think as a society, those are the populations that we want to help. And I think Jessica Smith Bobadilla, again, her name, a practitioner here in Fresno, also a professor here at the law school, is going to speak a little bit about VAWA and U-visas.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Professor Atkinson. So the VAWA provision is something that came into law through the Violence Against Women Act. It's not legislation that's specific to any gender, but it was, of course, inspired or motivated by the large numbers of women that are abused in our country, immigrant and non-immigrant women, women from all over. So basically, there were provisions of the Violence Against Women Act that, when signed into law, authorized certain people to be able to get legal resident status through an application process where they proved to the government that they had been victims of this, even though they were not legal residents or citizens of the United States at the time that they were victims of this violence. The Violence Against Women Act provisions, currently there's some movement going on in Congress, which a lot of immigration experts say that the Violence Against Women Act provision might be modified, or it might be less available in the future. But as of today, the way that the applications are being processed remains the same. That is that someone that was abused, that was legally married to a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident, and was abused by that person, whether it's physical, emotional, or some type, but it has to be some type of serious documented abuse, can prove that as long as they're otherwise, not a person that has done, some really bad things, and can attain permanent resident status. The time frame depends on whether the abuser was a legal permanent resident or green card holder or was a U.S. citizen. There's also some restrictions on if there was a divorce in the marriage, that the abused person coming forward to apply for benefits has to apply within 2 years, generally, of that divorce decree. Or if the abuser was deported, generally, again, 2 years. Often the abuser, if they were not a U.S. citizen at the time the abuse occurred, if they were a green card holder, could have been deported for these crimes. And sometimes there's kind of a dual thing that goes on where a woman comes forward, says, this person who was my husband, who was a green card holder, abused me for years, held me in this horrible situation, and the government is able to grant someone deserving like that status, and then they start flipping through somebody else's file and realize that this person might not really qualify to be here anymore, even though they might have been granted a green card at one time, and they might initiate deportation proceedings against the abuser. There's also another provision called U-visa, which is for crime victims. It's more permissive. It allows domestic violence petitions, type petitions. It's a temporary status. It's not a green card, and you're not allowed to leave the United States, but you are work authorized. And you can have been abused also but by someone that you were not legally married to, or that was not documented themselves when they abused you. The U-visa applies more broadly to violent crimes, so it wouldn't necessarily have to be domestic violence, but it does require a certification of a law enforcement agency, could be a district attorney's office, could be a police investigating agency. These are all important provisions for immigrants in our valley, and we just want people to be aware that they're out there.
Great. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please give us a call at the law school. I'm Justin Atkinson. This is Professor Bobadilla. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of San Joaquin College of Law Today, presented by San Joaquin College of Law, a nonprofit law school committed to educational excellence and community service. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the position or views of San Joaquin College of Law. This program has been produced in conjunction with the Community Media Access Collaborative. We invite you to join us in the future as we explore issues and events within the law school which are of general interest as well. For more information about San Joaquin College of Law, please visit our website at www.sjcl.edu or call 559-323-2100.